A child's muffled scream pierced through the walls of the Thompson estate at 2:47 a.m., and only one person heard it. Carmen Rodriguez, the night housekeeper, froze in the hallway, her cleaning cart still in hand, listening to a sound that would haunt her for the rest of her life. Before we begin this gripping story of courage, hidden evil, and one woman's fight to save an innocent life, please subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. Your support helps us share more powerful stories. Comment below and tell us where you're watching from. We love connecting with viewers worldwide. Now, let's begin this unforgettable tale. Carmen had worked at the Thompson mansion for only 3 weeks, taking the night shift because it paid better and allowed her to care for her own children during the day. The job was simple: clean the massive estate while the family slept, be invisible, ask no questions. But that scream, muffled, desperate, terrified, made invisibility impossible. Carmen set down her cleaning supplies and moved quietly toward the source of the sound. It had come from the East Wing, where the family's bedrooms were located. She knew she shouldn't be there. Mrs. Crawford, the head housekeeper, had been very clear that the night staff was to stay away from the family quarters. But that scream, that sound of a child in distress. Carmen crept down the hallway, her heart pounding. The Thompson family consisted of billionaire real estate mogul Richard Thompson, his new wife Celeste, who was only 28 to Richard's 55, and Richard's son from his first marriage, 10-year-old Noah. Carmen had seen Noah only a few times in her 3 weeks of employment. He was a quiet boy, small for his age, with sad eyes that seemed too old for his face. He reminded Carmen of her own son, Miguel, though Miguel was 12 and full of energy while Noah seemed diminished somehow. The staff whispered about Noah, about how his mother had died 3 years ago, about how his father had remarried quickly, too quickly, to a woman who clearly had no interest in being a stepmother, about how the boy had become increasingly withdrawn. Carmen reached Noah's bedroom door. It was slightly ajar. She peered inside and saw the bed was empty, covers thrown back as if Noah had left in a hurry or been taken from it forcibly. Her blood ran cold. Where was the child? She heard voices then, low and urgent, coming from further down the hall. A woman's voice, Celeste, she recognized. And a man's voice she didn't recognize, definitely not Richard Thompson's deep baritone. Carmen knew she should leave, should mind her own business, should go back to her cleaning and forget what she'd heard. But that scream echoed in her mind. A child's scream of terror. She moved silently toward the voices, staying in the shadows. The conversation was coming from what she knew was Celeste's private sitting room, a space even the day staff rarely entered. "Can't believe we're actually doing this," the man's voice said. "Are you sure there's no other way?" "There is no other way," Celeste hissed. "That brat is all that stands between me and Richard's fortune. As long as Noah lives, I get nothing if Richard dies. But if Noah dies first, even if it's just days before Richard, I inherit everything as Richard's wife." Carmen's hand flew to her mouth to stifle her gasp. They were talking about killing Noah. Killing a child. "The plan is solid," Celeste continued. "We take him to the old wine cellar in the west basement. It hasn't been used in decades. Nobody even knows it exists anymore. We lock him inside, and in a week, when they find his body, it'll look like he got lost playing and couldn't get out. A tragic accident. No one will suspect anything. What about the staff? Someone might hear him crying." "The wine cellar is soundproof and 2 levels below ground," Celeste said with chilling confidence. "Besides, most of the staff work during the day. The night cleaner is some nobody who barely speaks English. She won't cause problems. And we'll make sure to be appropriately devastated when Noah is discovered. Richard will be destroyed, and I'll be the grieving stepmother. 6 months later, I'll take my inheritance and disappear with you." Carmen felt sick. They were planning to seal Noah in an underground cellar and let him die. And they'd already done it. That scream she'd heard must have been when they took him. She had to do something. But what? If she confronted them directly, they'd just deny it. Or worse, they might hurt her to keep her quiet. She needed help, needed to call the police, but her phone was in her locker downstairs, and she'd have to pass Celeste's sitting room to get to it. First, she needed to find Noah. If he was in this wine cellar Celeste mentioned, Carmen had to get him out before it was too late. She retreated silently, her mind racing. The west basement. Carmen had cleaned the regular basement, but she'd never heard of a west basement or a wine cellar. But this mansion was over 100 years old with countless rooms and levels. It was entirely possible there were spaces even the current staff didn't know about. Carmen hurried down to the main basement, moving as quickly as she dared while staying quiet. She had to find Noah before morning, before Celeste and her accomplice, boyfriend, lover, could ensure he was truly sealed away with no hope of rescue. The main basement was huge, filled with storage rooms, old furniture, and mechanical equipment. Carmen searched desperately, looking for any door or passage that might lead to a lower level. In the far corner, behind stacks of old paintings covered in dust, she found it. A small wooden door, barely visible, with a modern padlock that looked very new and very much out of place. This had to be it. But how could she get through the lock? Carmen ran back upstairs to the utility closet where maintenance tools were kept. She grabbed a crowbar and bolt cutters, praying they'd be enough. Back in the basement, Carmen worked at the padlock with the bolt cutters. The metal was strong, and her hands shook with fear and adrenaline, but finally, the lock snapped open. She pulled open the door and found steep stone stairs leading down into darkness. The air that rushed out was cold and stale. "Noah?" Carmen called softly into the darkness. "Noah, it's okay. I'm here to help you." At first, nothing. Then, faintly she heard it, crying. A child crying in the darkness below. "Noah, I'm coming down. Don't be scared." Carmen turned on her phone's flashlight and descended the stairs. They were old, crumbling in places, and went down much farther than she'd expected. Finally, she reached the bottom and found herself in a wine cellar that must have been magnificent once but was now decrepit and filled with broken bottles and rotting wood. And in the far corner, huddled behind an old wine rack, was Noah. The boy was wearing only his pajamas, his feet bare, his face streaked with tears and dirt. When he saw Carmen, he scrambled backward in fear. "No, don't take me back. Please." His voice was hoarse from crying. "Noah, I'm not going to hurt you," Carmen said gently, kneeling down to his level. "My name is Carmen. I work here at night, cleaning. I heard you and I came to help. We need to get you out of here." "Celeste did this?" he kept repeating. "My wife tried to murder my son?" Carmen had to give a statement, explaining everything she'd heard and done. The old wine cellar was examined and photographed. Evidence was collected. Noah was checked by paramedics and thankfully found to be physically unharmed, though clearly traumatized. As dawn broke, Richard Thompson sat with Noah in the main living room, holding his son close. Carmen was preparing to leave, her shift was over, and she was exhausted, when Richard stopped her. "Ms. Rodriguez, please wait." Carmen turned. Richard's eyes were red from crying, his expensive suit rumpled. "You saved my son's life," Richard said, his voice breaking. "If you hadn't heard him, if you hadn't been brave enough to investigate, if you hadn't gotten him out of that cellar," he couldn't finish the sentence. "I just did what any decent person would do," Carmen said quietly. "No," Richard said firmly. "You did what a hero does. You risked your own safety to save a child you barely knew. Most people would have looked the other way, told themselves it wasn't their business. You didn't." He stood, still holding Noah's hand. "Ms. Rodriguez, I will never be able to repay you for what you've done. But I'd like to try. First, you're receiving a reward, $1 million. Don't argue," he added when Carmen started to protest. "It's the least I can do. Second, if you want it, you have a permanent position in this household. Not as a night cleaner, as whatever you want. Head of household staff, estate manager, any. Name your salary." Carmen was overwhelmed. "Mr. Thompson, I appreciate the offer, but I have children of my own. I need to be home with them during the day." "Then work from home," Richard interrupted. "Or don't work at all. The money I'm giving you is enough that you won't need to work if you don't want to. But Ms. Rodriguez, I want you in my life and Noah's life. You're the person who saved him. You're a hero. And Noah," he looked down at his son, who was watching Carmen with grateful eyes, "Noah already trusts you more than he's trusted anyone since his mother died. Carmen looked at Noah, this small boy who'd been through so much trauma, and felt her heart break for him. Noah, would you like me to stay? To be around more? Noah nodded emphatically, then ran to Carmen and hugged her legs. Please stay. Please. You're the only one who helped me. Carmen's eyes filled with tears. She knelt down and hugged Noah properly. Okay, Mijo. I'll stay. I promise. Over the following days, the full extent of Celeste's plan emerged. She'd married Richard specifically for his money, never caring about him or Noah. Her accomplice was her boyfriend of 5 years, a man named Derek, who'd helped her plot the murder. The plan had been simple but evil: seal Noah in the wine cellar and claim he'd gone missing. After a week of searching, they'd discover his body and everyone would believe he'd gotten lost in the massive estate and couldn't find his way out. It would look like a tragic accident. Celeste would play the grieving stepmother, and Richard, devastated by his son's death, would likely fall apart. If Richard died from the grief, or could be helped along to die, Celeste would inherit his entire fortune as his widow, over $3 billion. But Carmen had heard Noah scream. Carmen had investigated. Carmen had saved him. The media coverage was intense. Housekeeper saves billionaire's son from evil stepmother, read the headlines. Carmen became famous overnight, though she shied away from most interview requests. What Carmen cared about was Noah. The boy had been through yet another trauma, had learned that another person he trusted, even reluctantly, had tried to harm him. The psychological damage would take years to heal. Richard, racked with guilt for bringing Celeste into their lives, dedicated himself to Noah's recovery. He hired the best child psychologists. He cut back on his work dramatically to be present for his son. And he asked Carmen to be a permanent part of Noah's life. I can't replace his mother, Carmen told Richard. I wouldn't try. I'm not asking you to replace her, Richard said. I'm asking you to be someone Noah can trust. Someone who proved, when it mattered most, that they'd protect him. He needs that stability. So Carmen became part of the household, though in an unusual role. She wasn't a nanny, wasn't exactly staff, but somewhere in between. She was simply Carmen, the woman who'd saved Noah and whom both father and son trusted implicitly. One evening, a month after that terrible night, Carmen found Noah in his room, looking at a photo of his mother. Do you think she knows? Noah asked Carmen. My mom in heaven. Do you think she knows what happened? I think she knows, Carmen said gently. And I think she's grateful someone was there to protect you. Celeste locked me in here, Noah sobbed. She said I have to stay here. She said if I make noise, bad things will happen. But I got scared and I screamed and... Shoo, it's okay, Carmen said, moving closer slowly. Noah, I know what happened. I know Celeste put you here. But we're going to get you out, okay? Can you come with me? Noah hesitated, then nodded. He was shivering. The cellar was freezing. Carmen took off her cardigan and wrapped it around him, then lifted him into her arms. He was lighter than Miguel, almost fragile. Hold on tight, she told him. We're going upstairs. Carrying Noah, Carmen climbed the stairs back to the main basement. Every second she expected Celeste or her accomplice to appear, to stop them, to hurt them both. But the basement remained empty. She had to get Noah somewhere safe and call the police. But if she called from the house, Celeste might overhear. And if she tried to leave with Noah, Celeste might stop them at the gate. The estate had security that would alert the main house if anyone tried to exit. Think, Carmen, where could she hide Noah while she figured out what to do? The answer came to her, her own small quarters. The night staff had a tiny room near the kitchen where they could rest during breaks. It had a lock on the inside. If she could get Noah there, she could lock the door and call the police. Carmen carried Noah through the basement, up the back stairs, and into her quarters. She locked the door behind them and set Noah down on the small cot. Noah, I need you to stay here and be very quiet while I make a phone call, okay? Can you do that? Noah nodded, his eyes wide with fear but also with trust. He believed Carmen would help him. She couldn't let him down. Carmen pulled out her phone and dialed 911, her hands shaking. 911, what's your emergency? My name is Carmen Rodriguez. I'm at the Thompson estate on Riverside Drive. I just found a 10-year-old boy, Noah Thompson, locked in a cellar. His stepmother and another man were planning to leave him there to die. I have the boy safe right now, but I need police here immediately. The woman who tried to harm him is still in the house. Ma'am, can you repeat that? You're saying someone tried to harm a child. Carmen repeated the information, giving as many details as she could. The dispatcher assured her police were on the way but told her to stay on the line. Can you get yourself and the child to a safe location? Somewhere away from the suspects. We're in a locked room right now. I don't know if they know I have him yet, but when they realize he's gone. Carmen was interrupted by pounding on the door. Open this door immediately. Celeste's voice, shrill with anger. I know you have him. Open up or you'll regret it. Carmen gripped Noah tighter. Into the phone she said urgently, they're here. They know I have him. Please hurry. Officers are 3 minutes away, the dispatcher said. Do not open the door. Stay where you are. The pounding grew more violent. Then a man's voice, we can break this door down. Make this easy on yourself. Give us the boy. No. Carmen shouted back. The police are coming. I already called them. They know everything. Silence. Then rapid footsteps retreating. They're running, Carmen told the dispatcher. I think they're trying to escape. Officers will intercept them, the dispatcher assured her. Stay where you are. The next few minutes felt like hours. Carmen held Noah, who was crying quietly into her shoulder, and waited. Finally, she heard new voices in the house. Authoritative voices, police officers. Police. Anyone in the building, identify yourself. In here. Carmen called. We're in here. A police officer's face appeared in the small window of the door. Ma'am, can you unlock the door? We need to secure the area. Carmen unlocked the door, still holding Noah protectively. Several officers entered and one, a woman with kind eyes, approached gently. Hi there, Noah. I'm Officer Martinez. You're safe now, okay? Nobody's going to hurt you. Can you tell me what happened tonight? Noah, still clinging to Carmen, told his story in halting words. How Celeste had come to his room with a man he didn't know. How they'd carried him down to the cellar despite his crying and begging. How Celeste had told him he'd be staying there, that nobody would find him, that he should save his voice because screaming wouldn't help. She said nobody would hear me, Noah whispered. But Carmen heard me. Carmen saved me. Officer Martinez looked at Carmen with respect. Ma'am, you did the right thing. You saved this child's life. Another officer appeared in the doorway. We caught them both trying to flee in a vehicle. They're in custody. Over the next hour, the Thompson estate became a crime scene. Richard Thompson, who'd been away on a business trip, was called and returned immediately, devastated and disbelieving. Celeste said my mom wouldn't have wanted me, Noah said quietly. She said that's why my mom died, because she didn't want to be my mother anymore. Carmen felt rage surge through her. The psychological abuse Celeste had inflicted went even deeper than they'd realized. Noah, look at me. That is absolutely not true. Your mother loved you more than anything in the world. She died in an accident, a terrible, random accident. It had nothing to do with you. She would have given anything to stay with you. How do you know? Noah asked. Because I'm a mother, Carmen said. I have children too. And there is nothing in this world that could make me stop loving them. Nothing. Your mother felt the same way about you. I promise you that. Noah thought about this, then asked, do you think you could love me too? Even though I'm not your real son? Carmen pulled Noah into a hug. Mijo, I already do love you. From the moment I heard you crying for help, my heart chose you. You're not my biological son, but you're a child who needed protecting, and that made you mine to protect. Do you understand? Noah nodded against her shoulder. I'm glad you heard me. I'm glad you saved me. Me too, Noah. Me too. The trial of Celeste and Derek was extensively covered by the media. Both were charged with attempted murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy to commit murder. The evidence was overwhelming. Carmen's testimony, the recorded 911 call, the physical evidence of the wine cellar, and eventually, text messages between Celeste and Derek discussing their plan. Both were convicted and sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole. At the sentencing, Richard Thompson gave a victim impact statement. "My son almost died because I failed to see the evil-eyed invited into our home. I was so lonely after my first wife's death that I rushed into a relationship with someone who never loved me or my son. That failure of judgment almost cost me everything that matters." He continued, his voice stronger. "But this story isn't just about my failure. It's about Carmen Rodriguez's courage. A woman who had every reason to look the other way, to tell herself it wasn't her business, to protect herself first. Instead, she risked everything to save a child she barely knew. She's a hero in every sense of the word. And she's a reminder that goodness still exists, that courage still matters, that one person can make all the difference." After the trial, life at the Thompson estate slowly returned to a new normal. Richard remained dedicated to Noah, working from home as much as possible, being present for every moment of his son's life. Carmen helped, providing stability and care. 6 months after the incident, on what would have been Noah's mother's birthday, Carmen found Noah in the garden looking sad. "I miss her," Noah said. "My real mom. I wish she was here instead of Celeste ever being here." "I know," Carmen said. "Your mom should be here. It's not fair that she's not." "But you're here," Noah said, looking up at Carmen. "You saved me. You're like a mom to me now. Is that okay? Can I think of you that way?" Carmen's eyes filled with tears. "Noah, that would be an honor. I'm not trying to replace your mother. Nobody could. But if you want to think of me as someone who loves you like a mother, who will protect you like a mother, who will always be here for you, then yes, that's okay. That's more than okay." Noah hugged her, and they stood in the garden together, two people who'd found each other in the worst circumstances but had created something good from that darkness. The billionaire's son had been buried alive, sealed in a cellar by an evil stepmother who wanted him dead. But the maid heard his cry for help. The maid investigated when she could have looked away. The maid saved him when no one else knew he needed saving. And in doing so, Carmen Rodriguez proved that heroism doesn't require superpowers or special training. It just requires paying attention when others don't, being brave when others are cautious, choosing to help when others choose comfort. One woman's choice to investigate a strange sound in the night saved a child's life. And changed everything. Sometimes being a hero is that simple. And that hard. 1 year had passed since the night Carmen saved Noah from the wine cellar, and the Thompson household had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The massive estate, once cold and filled with hidden dangers, had become something else entirely, a real home. Carmen stood in the kitchen preparing Noah's favorite breakfast, chocolate chip pancakes with strawberries arranged in smiley faces, when she heard footsteps racing down the stairs. "Carmen! Carmen, look what I made!" Noah burst into the kitchen, holding a drawing. He was 11 now, taller and healthier looking than the fragile boy she'd rescued. His eyes, once haunted and sad, now sparkled with life. "What is it, Mijo?" Carmen asked, wiping her hands on her apron. "It's for you," Noah said, presenting the drawing proudly. It showed a woman with dark hair holding the hand of a small boy. Above them was written in careful letters, "My hero Carmen. Thank you for saving me." Carmen felt her throat tighten with emotion. "Noah, this is beautiful. I'm going to frame this and hang it in my room." "Really?" Noah beamed. "Dad said I should make you something special for your birthday next week. Is a drawing good enough?" "It's perfect," Carmen assured him. "The best gift is one that comes from the heart." Richard appeared in the doorway, wearing casual clothes, a dramatic change from the business suits he'd lived in before. These days he worked mostly from home, refusing to miss any more of Noah's childhood. "Good morning," Richard said, smiling at the scene. "Are those your famous pancakes, Carmen?" "The best pancakes in the world," Noah declared. "Right, Dad?" "Absolutely," Richard agreed, ruffling Noah's hair affectionately. As they sat down to breakfast together, something that happened every morning now, Carmen reflected on how much had changed. After the trial, Richard had insisted Carmen move into a proper suite in the main house rather than the staff quarters. He'd also insisted she bring her own children to live there too. "You saved my son," Richard had said. "The least I can do is make sure your children have every advantage. There's plenty of room here, and I want Noah to have other kids around. It'll be good for him." So Carmen's two children, Miguel, now 13, and Sophia, 9, had moved into the Thompson estate. Miguel and Noah had become best friends, despite the age difference. Sophia, energetic and talkative, had brought joy and chaos to the house in equal measure. The arrangement was unconventional, but it worked. Carmen was paid a generous salary as family coordinator, a role Richard had created specifically for her that involved managing the household, coordinating Noah's activities, and being the emotional center of their unusual family. But more than employment, Carmen had become something else, the heart of their home. The person both Richard and Noah turned to for comfort, advice, and connection. After breakfast, Carmen walked Noah and Miguel to the car for the drive to school. Noah attended a prestigious private academy now, and Miguel had been enrolled there too, with Richard covering all expenses. "I have a history presentation today," Noah said nervously as Carmen buckled him in. "I'm worried I'll mess it up." "You practiced it perfectly last night," Carmen reminded him. "You know your material. Just remember, even if you make a mistake, it's okay. Nobody's perfect." "But what if everyone laughs at me?" "Then you laugh with them and keep going," Carmen said. "Noah, you're brave. You've survived things most people never face. A history presentation is nothing compared to what you've already overcome." Noah considered this, then nodded. "You're right. Thanks, Carmen." Miguel, watching from the front seat, smiled. "Dude, your presentations are always good. Stop worrying." As the boys headed to school, Carmen returned to the house to find Richard in his office, looking troubled. He was staring at a document on his computer screen. "Everything okay?" Carmen asked. Richard looked up, startled. "Carmen." "Yes, just dealing with some legal matters." "Come in, please. I actually wanted to talk to you about something." Carmen entered and sat down. Over the past year, she and Richard had developed a comfortable friendship. He valued her opinion and often discussed important matters with her. "I received a letter from Celeste's attorney," Richard said. "She's filing an appeal, claiming her conviction was unjust. Her lawyer is arguing that the evidence was circumstantial, that Carmen's testimony alone isn't enough." Carmen felt a chill run through her. "Can she win?" "No," Richard said firmly. "The evidence against her is overwhelming. The texts, the recorded 911 call, the physical evidence of the wine cellar with the new padlock, it all corroborates your testimony. But Carmen, this means you might have to testify again. At a new hearing. Are you prepared for that? If it means keeping that woman in prison where she belongs, then yes," Carmen said. "I'll testify 100 times if I have to. She tried to murder Noah. She doesn't deserve freedom." "I knew you'd say that," Richard said. "You're remarkable, Carmen. Your courage never wavers." There was something in his tone, something more than gratitude, that made Carmen uncomfortable. Over the past year, she'd noticed Richard looking at her differently sometimes. With appreciation, yes, but also with something that looked like attraction. Carmen had deliberately not acknowledged this. Richard was her employer, a billionaire, a man from a completely different world. Any romantic involvement would be complicated and potentially disastrous. Plus, she had to think of her children and of Noah, who'd finally found stability. She couldn't risk disrupting that. "It's not courage," Carmen said, standing up. "It's just doing what's right. I should get back to work. I have laundry to fold and I need to prepare dinner." "Carmen, wait," Richard said. "I need to talk to you about something else. Something personal." Carmen's heart sank. She knew what was coming. "Over this past year, you've become essential to this household. To Noah, yes, but also to me. Carmen, you've brought life back to this house. You've made it feel like a home. And he paused, struggling with the words. "I've developed feelings for you. Real feelings. Mr. Thompson." "Richard. Please call me Richard." "Richard," Carmen said carefully, "I care about you and Noah very much. But I'm your employee. There's a power imbalance here that makes any romantic relationship inappropriate. Then quit, Richard said. Or rather, let me restructure our arrangement. You're not really an employee anyway, you're family. Carmen, I'm not asking you to be my girlfriend or my wife or anything so formal. I'm just asking if you'd be open to exploring what this could be. Because I think there's something real here. Carmen took a deep breath. Richard, what you're feeling might just be gratitude. I saved Noah, and you're conflating that with romantic feelings. I'm 56 years old, Richard said. I know the difference between gratitude and love. Carmen, I love you. Not because you saved Noah, though I'll be grateful for that for the rest of my life. I love you because of who you are. Your kindness. Your strength. Your wisdom. The way you make everyone around you feel valued and seen. The way you've made this house feel like a home. Carmen felt tears prick her eyes. This is complicated, Richard. I have children who depend on me. Noah is finally stable and happy. If we started something and it didn't work out, then we'd handle it like adults, Richard interrupted gently. We'd put the children first. But Carmen, what if it did work out? What if we could build something real and lasting? Don't we owe it to ourselves to find out? Before Carmen could respond, they heard a crash from downstairs, followed by Sophia's voice. It's okay. Nothing's broken. Well, mostly nothing's broken. Carmen and Richard both rushed downstairs to find Sophia standing in the middle of the living room, surrounded by pieces of what used to be an expensive vase. The 9-year-old looked guilty but defiant. I was practicing my dance moves, Sophia explained. The vase got in the way. Carmen started to scold her daughter, but Richard spoke first. It's just a vase, Sophia. Was it in the way of a particularly impressive dance move? Sophia nodded enthusiastically. I was doing a spin like they do in ballet. Then it was worth it, Richard said, smiling. Though maybe next time, practice in a room with fewer breakable objects? Sophia hugged Richard spontaneously. You're the best, Mr. Richard. After cleaning up the vase and redirecting Sophia to safer dancing locations, Carmen found Richard watching her with a soft expression. See, he said quietly. This is what I mean. We're already a family. The paperwork and formalities don't matter. What matters is that we care about each other. That we've built something real. Carmen knew he was right. Over the past year, they had become a family, her children, Noah, Richard, and herself. An unusual configuration, certainly, but functional and filled with love. I need time to think, Carmen said finally. This is a big decision, Richard. I can't rush into it. Take all the time you need, Richard said. I'm not going anywhere. Over the following weeks, Carmen wrestled with her feelings. She cared about Richard more than she'd admitted even to herself. He was kind, devoted to Noah, generous with her children. He'd proven himself to be a good man who'd learned from his mistakes. But she was also practical. She'd been married once, to Miguel and Sophia's father, who died in a construction accident 5 years ago. She'd raised her children alone since then, working multiple jobs to survive. The idea of depending on someone again, especially someone as wealthy and powerful as Richard, felt dangerous. What if he changed his mind? What if she wasn't really what he wanted, just a fantasy built on gratitude? What if Noah resented her for taking his father's attention? Carmen discussed it with her sister, Maria, during one of their weekly phone calls. He's a billionaire, Carmen. A billionaire who's saying he loves you. What's the problem? The problem is that I don't want to be with him for his money, Carmen said. And I don't want him to be with me out of gratitude for saving Noah. Have you considered, Maria said gently, that maybe he genuinely loves you? That maybe you've been living together as a family for a year and he's seen who you really are and loves that person. It feels too good to be true, Carmen admitted. Sometimes good things happen to good people, Maria said. You saved a child's life, Carmen. You risked your own safety to protect someone else's son. Maybe this is the universe rewarding you for that. Carmen didn't believe in cosmic rewards, but her sister's words stuck with her. Maybe she was overthinking this. Maybe she should just let herself feel what she felt and see where it led. The decision was made for her 3 weeks later, during the appeal hearing for Celeste's case. Carmen had to testify again, recounting in detail what she'd heard that night, how she'd found Noah, how she'd called the police. Celeste's attorney tried to discredit her, suggesting she'd misheard the conversation, that she'd overreacted, that she'd actually endangered Noah by moving him rather than calling police immediately. But Carmen stood firm. I heard what I heard. Celeste and her accomplice were planning to let that child die. And when I found Noah crying in that cellar, alone and terrified in the dark, I knew I'd made the right choice. I'd make the same choice again without hesitation. The attorney pressed harder. Isn't it true, Ms. Rodriguez, that you've personally benefited greatly from this situation? That Mr. Thompson has given you money, a place to live, essentially made you part of his family? Could your testimony be motivated by— Objection, the prosecutor interrupted. Counsel is implying witness tampering without evidence. The judge sustained the objection, but the damage was done. The implication hung in the air. Carmen's testimony might be bought. After the hearing ended, with the appeal denied, Celeste's conviction upheld, Carmen sat in the courthouse hallway, shaken. Richard found her there. Are you okay? That lawyer made it sound like I saved Noah for money, Carmen said, her voice breaking. Like everything I've done has been calculated for personal gain. Nobody who matters believes that, Richard said, sitting beside her. That lawyer was desperate, grasping at straws. Everyone knows you saved Noah because it was the right thing to do. But some people will believe it, Carmen said. Some people will think I'm just a gold digger who got lucky. Let them think whatever they want, Richard said firmly. Carmen, I know the truth. Noah knows the truth. That's all that matters. You're not a gold digger, you're a hero who happened to be rewarded for her heroism. There's nothing wrong with that. Carmen looked at him, this man who'd been nothing but kind and generous, and felt her resistance crumble. Richard, about what you said before? About your feelings. Yes. I have feelings for you too, Carmen admitted. I've been trying to ignore them, trying to convince myself it was inappropriate or complicated. But the truth is I love you. I love Noah. I love the family we've built. And I'm tired of pretending otherwise. Richard's face broke into a huge smile. Really? You mean it? I mean it, Carmen said. But Richard, we have to be careful. For Noah's sake especially. He's been through so much trauma. We can't rush into anything that might destabilize him. Agreed, Richard said. We'll take this slowly. We'll make sure Noah is comfortable with everything. But Carmen, can I just say, I'm so happy right now. Happier than I've been since before Catherine died. They sat together in the courthouse hallway, holding hands, both feeling like they'd crossed some important threshold. That evening, they sat down with Noah to explain that they had feelings for each other and wanted to explore a relationship. Does this mean Carmen is going to be my new mom? Noah asked. Not exactly, Richard said carefully. Carmen already is like a mom to you in many ways, right? But this means that Carmen and I want to be together as a couple. As partners. How do you feel about that? Noah thought about it seriously. Will you still have time for me, Dad? Or will you be too busy with Carmen? I'll always have time for you, Richard promised. You're my priority, always. Carmen being in my life doesn't change that, it just adds to our family. What about when you fight? Noah asked. Mom and Dad used to fight sometimes, and it was scary. If you and Carmen fight, what happens? Carmen answered this time. If Richard and I disagree about something, we'll talk about it calmly and work it out. And Noah, even if we have conflicts, that won't change how much we both love you. Our relationship with each other is separate from our relationships with you. You understand? Noah nodded slowly. I think so. Can I tell you something? Anything, Richard said. I kind of hoped you guys would get together, Noah admitted. Carmen makes you happy, Dad. And she makes me happy too. And her kids are my friends. So yeah, I think it's good. Relief flooded through both adults. They'd been so worried about Noah's reaction, but he was handling it better than they'd hoped. Over the following months, Richard and Carmen's relationship deepened. They were careful to maintain appropriate boundaries around the children, but they also didn't hide their affection. The children saw them holding hands, saw them stealing kisses in the kitchen, saw them working together as a team. And the household thrived. Miguel and Sofia fully accepted Richard as a father figure. Noah flourished with two stable parental figures who clearly loved him. The house was filled with laughter and the chaos of 3 children, game nights and family dinners, dance parties in the living room and movie marathons on weekends. 1 year after they'd officially become a couple, Richard proposed to Carmen. Not with a huge production or public display, just the two of them in the garden where Noah used to play with his mother, a place Richard had avoided for years but that Carmen had helped him reclaim. "Carmen Rodriguez," Richard said, getting down on one knee, "you saved my son's life. But you did more than that, you saved mine too. You brought joy back to this house. You taught me how to be present, how to live in the moment, how to appreciate what really matters. I can't imagine my life without you in it. Will you marry me?" Carmen, crying, said yes. The wedding was small and beautiful, held at the estate with only family and close friends present. Noah was the ring bearer, taking his job very seriously. Miguel walked Carmen down the aisle, proud to represent his late father in giving his mother away. Sofia was the flower girl and took great delight in throwing petals with dramatic flair. In his vows, Richard said, "Carmen, you came into my life as an employee. You became a hero when you saved my son. But what you've become since then is even more important. You've become my partner, my best friend, my love. You've shown me that families can be built, not just born. That love can grow from the ashes of tragedy. That courage and kindness can transform everything." In her vows, Carmen said, "Richard, when I heard Noah crying that night, I thought I was just saving a child. I didn't know I was also saving myself. You've given me and my children opportunities we never dreamed of. But more than that, you've given us love. You've made us family. You've proven that a home isn't about how big the house is or how much money you have. It's about the people inside who care for each other. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for choosing us." There wasn't a dry eye in the audience. After the wedding, life continued its new normal. Carmen legally adopted Noah, making him officially her son. Richard adopted Miguel and Sofia, making them officially his children. They were a blended family, unusual in configuration but strong in love. Noah, now 13, had grown into a confident young man. The trauma of what Celeste had done would always be part of his story, but it no longer defined him. He was in therapy, processing his experiences, learning healthy coping mechanisms. One evening, Carmen found Noah in his room looking at old photos of his biological mother, Catherine. "Do you think she'd approve?" Noah asked. "Of you marrying Dad? Of you being my mom now?" Carmen sat beside him. "Noah, I think your mother would want your father to be happy. And she'd want you to have a mother figure who loves you. I'm not trying to replace her, nobody could. But I think she'd be grateful that you have someone who cares for you. I used to feel guilty," Noah admitted, "for loving you, like it was betraying my real mom. But my therapist says I can love both of you. That love isn't limited." "Your therapist is right," Carmen said. "Your heart is big enough to love everyone who deserves it. Your biological mother, who loved you first. And me, who loves you now. Both can be true." "I'm glad you heard me that night," Noah said quietly. "When I was in the cellar. I'm glad you came to help me." "I'm glad I heard you too," Carmen said, pulling him into a hug. "I'm glad I had the courage to investigate. I'm glad I got you out. Because Noah, you've made my life richer in ways I never expected. You taught me that family can be chosen. That love can heal even the deepest wounds. That being brave for someone else makes you stronger." 2 years after the wedding, the Thompson Rodriguez family, they'd combined their names, had settled into a rhythm that worked. Richard ran his business empire from home, taking strategic trips but never being gone for more than a few days. Carmen managed their household and had started a foundation helping families of crime victims, using her experience to support others. Miguel was in high school now, excelling academically and talking about becoming a lawyer. Sofia was in middle school, still dramatic and energetic but channeling it into theater and dance. Noah was thriving in high school, part of the debate team and student government. On the third anniversary of the night Carmen had saved Noah, the family gathered for a special dinner. They'd started a tradition of honoring that date not as a day of trauma, but as a day of gratitude, grateful that Carmen had heard, grateful that she'd acted, grateful that Noah had survived. "I want to say something," Noah announced at dinner. He stood up, looking nervous but determined. 3 years ago tonight, I thought I was going to die. I was alone in the dark, scared, convinced that nobody would find me. But Carmen heard me. She risked her own safety to save me. And that one act of courage changed everything." He continued, "Because Carmen saved me, Dad and I got closer. Because Carmen stayed, I got brothers and a sister. Because Carmen and Dad fell in love, I got a complete family again." One act of courage, one woman hearing a cry for help and choosing to respond, created all of this. Noah looked directly at Carmen. "Mom, because that's what you are now, my mom. I don't say it enough, but thank you. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for building this family." Carmen was crying. Richard was crying. Even Miguel and Sophia were teary-eyed. "Noah," Carmen said, standing to hug him, "you don't have to thank me. Saving you was the easiest decision I ever made. And everything that came after, falling in love with your father, building this family, becoming your mother, those weren't sacrifices. They were gifts. You gave me as much as I gave you." As the family embraced, Richard, Carmen, Noah, Miguel, and Sophia, all tangled together, Carmen reflected on the journey that had brought them here. She'd been a night housekeeper, nobody special, just trying to make ends meet. She'd heard a scream in the dark and made a choice: investigate or ignore, help or hide. That choice had saved a boy's life. But it had also saved her own. From a life of just surviving to a life of truly living. From loneliness to love. From struggling alone to building a family. The billionaire's son had been buried alive, sealed in a cellar by evil people who wanted him dead. What the maid heard, that muffled scream in the night, had changed everything. Not just by saving Noah's life, but by setting in motion a chain of events that transformed multiple lives. Carmen had expected nothing for her heroism. She'd just been doing what was right. But the universe, or fate, or God, or whatever force guides such things, had other plans. Her courage had been rewarded with love, family, belonging, purpose. Not everyone who does the right thing gets rewarded. Carmen knew that. Sometimes heroes sacrifice and get nothing in return. But sometimes, courage creates ripples that spread wider than anyone could predict. Sometimes saving one life means saving multiple lives, including your own. As they finished dinner and moved to the living room for their traditional game night, Carmen looked around at her family, this beautiful, complicated, perfect in its imperfection family, and felt profound gratitude. She'd heard a child scream. She'd investigated when she could have ignored. She'd acted when she could have frozen. She'd been brave when being brave was terrifying. And because of that, 5 people had been saved. Noah from death. Richard from a life of guilt and loneliness. Carmen and her children from poverty and struggle. All saved by one woman's choice to respond to a cry for help. The billionaire's son had been buried alive. What the maid heard changed everything. Not through magic. Not through destiny. But through courage. Through choosing to act when action was hard. Through seeing a child in danger and saying, "Not on my watch. Not while I can help." That's what heroes do. They hear the cries others ignore. They investigate when others look away. They act when others freeze. And sometimes, if they're lucky, they get rewarded with something even better than recognition. They get love, family, and a life worth living. Carmen had gotten all 3. And every day she was grateful.